Halito Chimachugma, this is Chief Steve coming at y'all with another episode of True Story. Today we're going to be getting into a new series from the book, The First Americans, which I think is a very interesting book. It ties into everything that we've been talking about from these last prior videos that has to do with freeing the slaves and just the whole slave narrative altogether, in which we know is a very false narrative amongst our people that was force-fed to our people in order for our people to lose their identity and remain lost and confused even till this day. But I'm glad to say that today we have proof and evidence, and we've had proof for a very long time, but now it's starting to come in this particular time, it's starting to come more into light, the true story of our people that has not been told on a public scale, and on a public scale, I mean on a mainstream scale, as far as, you don't really see a lot of this information being conveyed in your public institutions, your educational system, compulsory institutions of any sort. Okay, so although these books are well intact and have been recorded and documented and are now digital copies that are free to all, we still hold on to the fairy tale and folklores that were passed down to us, at least for the past few generations. But we need to understand that the whole slave system and indenture system here in this country was built on something that was supposed to be prearranged here by foreign entities. And there was very much a difference between slavery and indenture servitude. And we're going to get into that in this series. But today in particular, we're going to be talking about the establishment of the economic systems within these different colonies that were beginning to pop up in this particular landmass in North America, specifically, Virginia and New England. Those were the first colonies to be established out here. So when we go through this, you're going to realize that it wasn't Africans, it wasn't African slaves around during this time. There were no ships or anything going to Africa and bringing people from Africa to America and being forced into slavery and everything that they're saying that happened to us. We were already here. We, as the American Indians, as the copper-colored Aborigines that have been misclassified, reclassified, misclassified, and misplaced with the black label. So, as you can see in this illustration here, when the settlers came out here, when the first colonists came out here, when the colonies were being established, we were the first ones that they ran into. We were the first ones that they started going into business with. We were the ones that controlled the economic value of this land. And although they had their own, like I said, prearranged plan, talking about England, when they first started, coming out here and trying to establish their, basically their branch, their further extension of world domination, they realized that they couldn't get what they wanted to get out here done the way that they wanted to, because even the land was working against them. And that's something that we're going to get into today. So bear with me. It's going to be a little bit of a read, but I guarantee you it's going to be a good one. So if you're new to the channel, make sure that you like this video. Make sure that you subscribe. Put on your notification bell, because we're going to be going into some pretty deep stuff within this series. So I want to make sure that you guys are the first ones to know when this is going down. And when you tap that notification bell under your subscription, you will be the first one notified as soon as this drops, and you can get into it, really learn, dissect, and go deeper into the information being provided. Okay? So without further ado, let's get into the book. Alrighty, so like I said, the book is called The First Americans. This is 1607 to 1690. Okay? This is when this is taking place, 1607 to 1690. The First Americans. This is by Thomas Jefferson Wertenbaker, born 1879 through 1966. This publication was done in 1927. Okay? But this goes, the place or the time frame in which this is taking place is 1607 to 1690. And from a lot of people, before we even get into it, a lot of people like to believe that, you know, the first African slaves, the first Negroes, the first dark people to ever touch this land, they came in 1619. And I'm about to show you right now in multiple ways. And I'm just going to let you guys put the equation together, because, I mean, it's right there in front of you. I'm just going to point out the obvious, but as we're reading this, we were already here. We were not from Africa. We were not slaves by any means. And I mean, there was a slave system established out here, but you have to understand that slaves were nothing but prisoners of war. You had your slaves, and then you had your indentures. And like I said, we're going to get more into the differentials and you know, between those two terms as we go further into this book. But for now, I want you guys to see the establishment that is trying to take hold here, and the problems that they were having because of the fact that they did not know this land how they thought they knew this land, and who ultimately came to basically help their economy grow. All right. So, like I said, this was made in 1927, and this is taking place 1607 to 1690. So, bear with me as I go through these different passages. I'm gonna have some different words and things that, you know, are not common today, but I'm doing my best. All right, so let's get into it. We're gonna start on page 16 here, and get deep into it. Let's see. Let's go a little further here. Too far. Okay. Y'all forgive me, man. My kids is like, it's the afternoon. They wilding out. They just got done eating. So they gonna be loud. Okay. All right, guys. Here we go. So we're gonna start at page 16 here at the second paragraph. Okay. The settlements of Virginia and New England were mere incidents in the story of English expansion, an expansion impelled chiefly by economic necessity. The London Company, among whose stockholders were some of the greatest noblemen and richest merchants of the kingdom, was national in its character and its aims. The Pilgrim Fathers and those who followed them would never have gained permission to found their Bible commonwealths had it not been anticipated that they would produce the raw stuffs needed at home. There were other motives in the English settlement of America: the desire to check the power of the King of Spain, the prospect of discovering a new route to the Orient, and the hope of converting the Indians. Okay? Oh, go back. All right, so with that all being said, England came out here to America with a set motive. Okay? They wanted to check the power of the King of Spain. They wanted to enforce their power. They wanted to discover new routes, new places, or which ways to get to other areas, and they wanted to convert the Indians. So, and we know that their main thing was Christianity during that time, and it still is. And we can see by who is the most Christian people, or who goes to church, and have all it. We know that our people, the copper-colored Aborigines, have been severely um, converted, indoctrinated, and converted. So they succeeded in that for sure. But that's not all. That's not the only thing that they wanted to do. So it says, but one need only read the letters and broadsides of the statesmen and economists of the day to realize that their minds dwelt long and hopefully upon the economic phases of the great undertaking. So their whole thing out here was economic. The staple and certain commodities we have are soap ashes, pitch, tar, dyes of sundry sorts and rich values, wrote the Council of the London Company in February 1608. Timber for all uses, fishing for sturgeon and diverse other sorts. And it says making of glass and iron, and no improbable hope of richer mines. So this is all the stuff that they planned on exploiting out here for their benefit. The same expectation was an impelling motive in the settlement of New England. How serviceable this country must needs be for provisions for shipping is sufficiently known already, said John White in the Planter's Plea. At present it may yield planks, masts, oars, pitch, tar, or tear, and iron, and hereafter, by the aptness of the soil for hemp, if the colony increase, sales and cordage. So they're planning out everything that they see that they can make. They were gonna basically turn this place into a giant sweat factory. Like they were just gonna have people come out here and establish all this stuff, get all these raw materials and stuff for England. That's all this land was good for. That's what they saw that all this land was good for, just to become a manufacturer or producer for England. It says this pamphlet, written in 1630, at the moment when the great Puritan exodus was beginning, suggests that there were other than religious motives for that movement. So this pamphlet that he just quoted from was from 1630. And this was during what? The great Puritan exodus. Have they said anything about any kind of transatlantic slave trading? Did they say anything about any kind of people coming from Africa? They said that this was a Puritan exodus. This was not a mass importation. This wasn't during a mass importation of Africans. But this is supposed to have been happening already, right? This is past 1619. This is 1630 that this pamphlet was quoted. And we're supposed to have African slaves out here already. We're supposed to be having them coming out on the regular at this point. It's 11 years past, right? But this wasn't happening. It was just a great Puritan exodus. It was a lot of their people on ships coming out here. Not a whole bunch of dark people from Africa coming out here. Because the dark people that was here already was already established for centuries, for millennia, for generations. Okay? Well, let's keep going. 14 years earlier, so this is going all the way now. This is going 14 years earlier, 1616, right? 14 years earlier, Captain John Smith, after his voyage to New England in 1614, had pointed out that the pitch, tar, mast, and yards, which England imported from Norway and Poland, the iron and ropes from Sweden and Russia, and the canvas, wine, steel, iron, and oil from France and Spain could easily be produced in the region. So they're getting all of these different resources and stuff. They're getting it from all these different countries and stuff. And I'm sure that there's a tax or some kind of toll that they have to pay in order to get that stuff to them, right? You even see that today with the United States. The United States has everything she needs, or everything she has. Everything that she needs inside of her. But we continue to import from different places, and it's literally accumulating a debt. So it's getting so bad in England that they're trying to conquer new places so that they can find more places to basically establish resources and stuff, to kind of take that dependency off of depending on these other foreign countries, right? So it says in 1622, the Council for New England reiterated that there was every reason to expect fish, furs, hemp, silk, naval stores, and timber. In a word, there comes no commodity out of France, German, or the Sound, but may be had there, with reasonable labor and industry. So they figured with enough hard work and with enough hard work and ingenuity, I guess they can get the same resources that they get from these other countries and territories for themselves, produce it for themselves in another foreign land. A decade later, Thomas Morton emphasized the benefits to England which should accrue from the forests of New England. Okay? Of these may be made rosin, pitch, and tar or tear, which are such useful commodities that if we had them not from other countries in amity with England, our navigation would decline. Then how great the commodity of it will be to our nation to have it our own. Let any man judge. So, like I said, they're trying to get stuff for their own. They're coming out to another country or another, before this place was even a country, they're coming out to another landmass, and they're trying to claim it as theirs, claim their regions as theirs, and they're trying to establish resources. That's what this was all about. So their whole main thing wasn't slavery. When they came out here, their main goal wasn't just to enslave people and just beat people and turn them into these like half beaten to death type of, work mules for their own benefit. It didn't start off like that. And honestly, it didn't even fully come into that with the system that was being installed. But um, you're going to find out. So we're going to keep going here. We are left in no doubt then as to what England expected of her colonies. British America was not to be a mercantile country in a general sense or an agricultural country. It must not compete with England herself, must not duplicate her manufactures, her cloth, her clothes, her household utensils, her metalware, her furniture, but it was to produce. Indeed, it was founded chiefly for the purpose of producing the raw materials which the mother country solely needed. So this was just a place for them to get their raw materials so that they can manufacture the stuff that they need at home. We're going to be shipping the raw materials from America to England, and then England was going to use those raw materials to create everything that they need to make themselves advance, to make themselves go further in life. So they were going to mooch off of the raw resources of this land and use it for their benefit. It sounds a lot like what they did, what a lot of people did to the continent of Africa, you know. But you see that you're going to see right now that they couldn't do what they were trying to do. They can't do what they did to Africa out here. Okay. It says, had the original wishes of England been fulfilled, the Chesapeake Bay colonies would never have been covered with tobacco plantations. What? Tobacco plantations? How'd you go from all this ingenuity and different things to tobacco plantations? And New England would not have turned to farming, shipbuilding, fishing, and trading. She had expected to people the forests of the New World with smelters of iron and copper, with glass makers, with workers of potash, pitch and tar, with rope makers. So they came out here with a whole another idea how this was going to go. But once they came out here and they saw how the land was producing and who was cultivating the land, because that's another big thing, who was cultivating the land. And they saw who the people that was cultivating the land were producing. Eventually, in order to survive, in order to thrive, they had to get on the level of the cultivators, the ones that were doing the producing, the main producing on the land. And those ones that we know who were doing that, especially when it comes to the tobacco, we already know was the indigenous copper-colored aborigines, the American Indians. Okay? Nor was she lacking in persistence in her attempts to carry out this purpose. No sooner had the settlement in Jamestown been made than the London Company sent over a number of Dutchmen and Poles to begin the production of pitch, tar, turpentine, and potash. So, did they go to Africa to get Africans? No. No, they didn't. They went to the Netherlands to get Dutch people. The Dutchmen and Poles. Okay? And you bear with me right now. I'm going to show you guys who the Dutchmen and the Poles were. Let's see if they came from Africa or see if they came from, like I said, the Netherlands and other different places and territories. Let's pause for the cause and get to it. All right. I asked Google, where does Dutchman come from? Where do Dutchmen come from? Google says, via dictionary.com, over time, English-speaking people used the word Dutch to describe people from both the Netherlands and Germany. So they came from Netherlands and Germany, and now just the Netherlands today. At that point in time, in the early 1500s, the Netherlands and parts of Germany, along with Belgium and Luxembourg, were all part of the Holy Roman Empire. Okay? So they're getting all these people from the Holy Roman Empire. They're getting all these people from their side. They're not there. Did you see Africa in this anywhere? In Dutchman? Nope. Okay. So what else? Who else did they say? The Poles, right? So we're gonna go ahead and pause one more time, and we're gonna see where the Poles come from. All right, here we are again. Poles. Where do the Poles come from? So I asked Google, and this is what they gave me. First thing, Wikipedia. Not a big Wikipedia fan, but hey, this is something that's basic right here. Polish people, or Poles, are a West Slavic ethnic group and nation who share a common history, culture, the Polish language. Okay? So they're a West Slavic ethnic group from Poland. The Poles are from Poland. So you got Polish people and you have Germans and people from the Netherlands coming out here. All right? Nobody from Africa. Because I'm sure they would have mentioned this, right? They would have definitely mentioned this had this have been going down. So who? So did 1619 really happen? Did it honestly really happen? Or was that another lie? You tell me. Because these are the first Americans. This is an actual book that is telling you how the first Americans established the colonies out here. So I'm gonna leave that to you to answer. Let me know in the comments if you made it this far. I appreciate you. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. Okay? So let's go forward and wrap this up. Alrighty, y'all, we're back. Immediately after, let's maximize this real quick. Okay, here we are. Immediately after came machinery for the smelting and manufacture of iron. Later iron works were set up at Falling Creek on the James River, so ambitious in size that the total cost to the company was between 4,000 pounds and 5,000 pounds, which is a lot back in that day. So early as 1608, a glass furnace was built at Jamestown, while 13 years later, Captain William Norton arrived with skilled Italians to continue the manufacture of glassware. So they went all there. They're even getting Italians. Even Italians are coming out here. They have skilled Italians coming out here. Have they said anything about Africa yet? Anything? And this is what, 13 years later? Well past 1619. Have they said anything about Africans yet? No, they have not. Let's keep going. In these first permanent English colonies on the mainland, Virginia and Plymouth, the colonists were regarded as servants of the English traders. They were the slave. For a time, they worked under company direction and piled up their products in company storehouses, not their own. So they were making all this stuff, working, slaving hard for this stuff. The colonists were. But they were doing that to put all the products and stuff in storehouses and company storehouses to be sent back to England. They weren't keeping anything for themselves. Doesn't that sound like a slave to you? And it ain't said nothing about Africa yet. The colony existed for the benefit of the mother country, not for the benefit of the colonists. There is no more interesting experiment in the history of colonization than this attempt by England to establish a prearranged economic system in her new possessions. See? Had she succeeded and the British America of her plans become the British America of reality, the course of events through succeeding centuries would have been entirely different. Slavery would probably not have been fixed upon the South. There might have been no Civil War. Now, understand when they say slavery being fixed upon the South, you got to understand who's inhabiting the South, particularly the Southeast. They're copper-colored aborigines that are inhabiting the South and the Southeast. There were wars going on during this time. And during times of war, you have people that are unalived and you have people that were imprisoned. The people that were imprisoned were turned into workers. They worked all their life. They assimilated. They were turned into a second class of people. And I mean, that's what it was. They were working. And it wasn't just the colonists or not even the colonists at this time. It wasn't even, we weren't just slaves to foreigners. We were slaves to each other as well. There was different wars going on at this time. Got to understand that. We were prisoners of war. And that's why I say slaves, I mean prisoners of war. We were prisoners of war to not only the foreigner, but to one another as well. And even some of our people sold prisoners to different foreigners. You had different alliances and stuff going on. Okay? But they're saying had they established their system in the South, there wouldn't have been no slavery at all. So that just goes to show you that this whole system was not even built on slavery like they said it was. It wasn't built on slavery like they said it was. This was literally built like how the United States is doing right now. The United States is kind of like England, how England was back then. We got all this stuff that we want to produce and we doing all this stuff, but then at the same time, what are we doing? We're outsourcing, going to different countries and establishing raw resources and getting those and bringing them out here in order to build what we want out here. Not for them to compete. They're not there to compete with us. We just want you to build our stuff. And then once we get y'all the raw resources from y'all place, we're going to bring it here. And then we're going to build the stuff here and then sell it out again. That's what England was doing back then. And that's what America is doing right now. So you can see why things are the way they are is because they're just following in the footsteps of their mother. That's all this government is doing, is following in the footsteps of Mother England. The same mistakes that she's made, the United States is making today. And all of this was all based on geography. They said they had basically done things differently, the events wouldn't have turned out the way that they were. This would be British America today. But because there wasn't, slavery existed in the South, indentured servitude and everything of that nature went down, and we owned the majority of the land out here. We were the land we owned priority of the land. We owned all the land for the most part, outside of those colonies. Outside of the different foreigners that came out here, we owned the majority of the land. We knew how to cultivate the land. They looked at us as a source of power, as a source of resources. We showed them how to farm. We showed them how to cultivate. We showed them how to make these raw resources become something that they can produce on a regular basis. Okay? The Civil War was nothing but a labor dispute. That's all it was. Because guess what? I'll tell you something. The majority of the slaves out here weren't so-called Negro. They weren't. They were your Poles. They were your Germans. They were your Italians. Even the Irish, when the Irish came out here, they became the Irish. And yeah, our people were prisoners of war. And a lot of our people were being shipped out. We were being shipped out of the mainland to the Caribbean. And out of the mainland to Europe. And even to Africa eventually. Later, way later, but eventually to Africa. Yet, at the same time, with all this going down, have you heard anything about Africans being brought out here? No, you haven't. No, you have not. Okay? Let's keep on though. Y'all got to bear with me today because this was a while coming. I'm getting tired of people, just keep on holding on to these false narratives and trying to cope with these fairy tales to justify their feelings and their emotions right now. Okay? When you got the truth right here in front of you, telling you otherwise. All right, let's keep going. But the experiment was foredoomed to failure. The experiment was foredoomed to failure. It was the geography of the region selected for settlement which was destined to shape its economic life, not the designs of the London Company, nor even the efforts of the British nation. The glass furnaces at Jamestown proved a failure. The potash workers deserted. The iron furnaces were destroyed by the Indians. This was war. This was wartime. You think that we were just going to let them come out here and establish stuff? Bringing all these different foreigners out here? And just living off of our resources? Moving us off of our land? Hell no. We were fighting. We were destroying shit. Come on now. Before the end of the third decade of the 17th century, before the end of the third decade of the 17th, so we in the 1630s now. Virginia had given up all immediate hopes of producing the commodities England needed and had turned her energies into the cultivation of tobacco. And who ran the tobacco scene? I'm sure you know, but for those who don't, let me show you. Pause for the cause, we're going to get into it. These are your tobacco growers. These are the ones that were growing the tobacco. Who does that look like? The copper-colored Aborigines, the Indigenous Americans. And shout out to Sosalina, man, for throwing these different images and stuff out here. I was able to get some of those images and kind of piggyback off of it as well, and use some of my AI generated images and stuff to kind of, throw a little more color and flavor into it as well. But shout outs to you, so I appreciate you, brother. But yeah, Virginia tobacco. Who's growing that? Who's cultivating that? That brother has a shovel in his hand and a full-blown tobacco pipe. That was our product. That was our resource. We were creating that. We were cultivating that. All right? That's what they had to use. They couldn't do anything out here without us. They couldn't do anything out here without us. What does that say? 2 black boys against Somerset House, London. Huh? And this is the one I got from Brother Sosa right here. I appreciate you, bro, for this one. I'm gonna zoom in on this. He had this in one of his videos a while back. But look at this right here. Bromley's Best Virginia Friday Street. Look at these Indians right here. Look at these Aborigines. And here's some more proof for you. This is going down in the same time. Right here, look. Not long after the founding of Jamestown, which is where? Virginia, right? Tobacco, distributed in Europe under labels such as this one, emerged as the colony's most profitable cash crop. It was Pocahontas' husband, John Rolfe, who in 1613, sent part of his part of his crop to London, where it was praised by experts. 4 years later, 1617, right? 20,000 pounds of tobacco sailed for England aboard the George. That was the ship's name, the George, prompting a boom in the demand for land in Virginia. Okay? So after they got that shipment in 1617, then what? A boom. It prompted a boom in the demand for land in Virginia. So in order to get that land, what you got to do, you got to come out here and claim it, right? So who was coming out here after 1617, particularly in 1619? They told you in the book it was a Puritan exodus. We were already here. We were already here. If we were already here, then whoever was on this boat right here didn't look like these people right here, because these people were already here. We was right here waiting for this to come in, and we wasn't waiting, and we wasn't scared, and we wasn't, sitting there like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Nah, we had products, we had stuff, shit. We was doing the damn thing. We was hustling. We ran this. Okay? Tobacco label featuring 2 Native American Indians smoking clay pipes. 2 Aborigines. And then y'all can check out this book as well, The Tobacco Society of the Crow Indians. It's a good one. Robert Harry Lowy. And this is some AI generation. You should remember this from a few videos back. This brother right here that I created. And this is just giving y'all more image, more detail as to what was going on, what was going down. All right. And to even go in a little deeper, figurine depicting Pocahontas, early 18th century English, the daughter of the Indian chief Powhatan, married in 1614 by the Englishman John Rolfe. In 1617, she died during a visit to England. Pocahontas was in the United States United States tobacco symbol. Right there. Come on now. We ran this. We ran this. Okay? So y'all stop getting it twisted. Stop getting it twisted. All right? Nobody didn't come from no Africa. We did not come from no Africa. Y'all got to do better than that. Y'all got to do better than these scientific experiments that y'all call DNA ancestry. Y'all got to do better than that. Okay? Let's look at the reality of things here. We've been here. We're still here, and we're not going anywhere. All right? So, with that being said, it's going on to the 45-minute mark. I think I'm going to just end it right here. I had a little bit more to read, but we're just going to end it right here. If you stuck with me this long, I truly appreciate y'all. Make sure you like this video. Like I said, share this video. Share this information. It's very important. Make sure that if you're new, subscribe to the channel. We're going to get some more. This is just the beginning. We're just touching on the surface here. It's about to get even deeper, y'all. Trust and believe. All right. Chief Steve signing off. I want to say, Tatakista, I appreciate y'all. I cherish y'all so much. We are at 400 subscribers now. We hit the 400 mark. Everybody give yourselves a round of applause. I don't have them crazy sound effects like, them big YouTube channels, but I'm sitting here reveling with y'all. I'm celebrating with y'all. I appreciate each and every one of you guys rocking with me from day one all the way till now. And just keep on rocking because we're going to keep on rolling. All right. We're not stopping anytime soon. All right. Chief Steve signing off. Tatakista, I cherish y'all. And Yokoki, thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one.